Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, so today we are going to talk about Vedic philosophy. Okay, so about Vedic philosophy, and there's a difference. Definitely, anybody who has studied philosophy, there's a difference between Western philosophy and Vedic philosophy. And the difference is not in subjects, because both of them deal with subject of God. But Western philosophy deals with subject of God less and in much lesser details, because first of all they have this less details. But Vedic philosophy discusses about God in much more detailed manner. There are more detailed discussions about God. And there are a few differences between Vedic philosophy and Western philosophy which we should note before I go into Vedic philosophy. Now, Indian Vedic philosophy is also called as darshan. This is the term used for Vedic philosophy. Darshan means to see. Philosophy means, technically, if you understand this word, phila means love, sophy means knowledge. Philosophy means love for knowledge. But darshan is something else. Darshan, according to Vedic philosophy, darshan means is knowledge for love. Philosophy is love for knowledge, but darshan is knowledge for love. Or in other words, Western philosophers or Western philosophy, they love knowledge. But aim of Vedic philosophy is to take knowledge so that they develop love of God. That's the idea. God is the aim and object of Vedic philosophy, at least of Vedanta. There are definitely some atheistic systems also in the paradigm of Vedic philosophy, just like Charvak is there, Sankhya, Yoga, and Vaisheshika Nyaya. All these are atheistic philosophies. But Vedanta, which is given by Vyasadeva, according to him, the aim of Vedic philosophy is God and to develop love for Him. And in his book, and Vyasadeva in his book Vedanta Sutra, he has refuted all other atheistic philosophies and established the aim of Vedic philosophy. So this is very crucial difference. If you go to any university, if you talk about Vedic philosophy, they will tell you, Vedic philosophy is a very big subject. There are theists, there are atheists, isn't it? And they will divide like that. And it's complex because Vedas say, so there's a sutra in Vedas, so which goes by the name, so the name is Nasadya Sutra. And there it says, okay, fine. It says, it describes about God, describes about creation. It is a sutra concerned with creation. And in the end, the translation goes like this. It's not Sanskrit, but the translation goes like this. Who can tell who has made this creation? Perhaps even the Creator knows it not. That's the translation. Perhaps the Creator also doesn't know whether He has created or not. So, the point is, if you read English translations of Vedas and of Vedic philosophy and university books, definitely you're going to get confused. It's 100%. And then you're going to say, well, Vedic philosophy is also hodgepodge. Sometimes they're talking about God, sometimes they're talking about atheism, sometimes they're talking about mixed atheism and theism. It's all hodgepodge, but actually it's not hodgepodge. People who have studied Vedic philosophy according to tradition. That's important. Vedic philosophy has to be understood by people who are in the line, who are reading Vedas, who have tradition of Vedic knowledge and Vedic wisdom. It can't be understood by universities. You can't understand. Suppose if you go to England and if you go to all this America, so they have this department, Indian mythology. First of all, this term is, it looks a biased term, First of all, right from starting, it's mythology. Right from starting, it's a funny term. And on the top of that, then there are and their own understandings and all those things. So we have to keep in mind, if you come to India, go to some traditional school. And if you go to those traditional schools, if you read Vedanta properly, you'll come to conclusion that the aim of Vedic philosophy is to know God. That's it. But Western philosophy is not like that. Western philosophy, goal of Western philosophy is knowledge about reality. This is the second difference. Western philosophers, they want to know reality. Okay, that's good. And for that, they do speculation. So that's the idea. They do speculation. They sit somewhere in the mountain, they have their small hut, and he's looking out a window, and he's just thinking something, cooking something in his mind, and then thinking, or he'll go to some riverside, he'll make a small hut, he'll spend some 15 years, come back with his thesis, his philosophy, and he's a philosopher. This is about Western philosophy, history of Western philosophy. But what about Indian philosophy? It doesn't happen like that. In Indian philosophy, if you want to learn, you have to go to a teacher, go to a spiritual master, and you have to serve him. You have to get a proper training, and you don't. First thing is you don't have to speculate. You don't have to speculate. You have whatever understanding, whatever reasoning we are to give, that should be according to scriptures. Scriptures, this is another difference. Well, lecture is going here and there, but this is another difference. Western philosophy is largely based on speculation of philosophers, isn't it? And religion is different. In the West, philosophy is separate, religion is separate. Religion means Bible, or maybe Quran, and philosophy is something else. So philosophers do not like religion in the West. There is a dichotomy. But in Vedic philosophy, religion and philosophy is intertwined. You can't separate them. You can't separate God and philosophy and reality, because God is reality according to Vedanta. So that means whatever reasoning is to be offered to understand God, it should be according to scriptures. Scriptures are religious books, or you can call it them as philosophical books according to tradition. There's a lot of philosophy in scriptures. It's different from Bible. Vedanta, if you read Vedanta, it's full of philosophy. It's complex philosophy. And if you read Vedas, if you read Nyaya Shastra, full of logic. So there is a system to discuss and to think given in scriptures. You have to follow those rules, and you have to keep yourself in the limit of those rules which are offered by scriptures. This is the difference between Indian philosophy and Vedic philosophy and Western philosophy. Vedic philosophy is largely confined to scriptures. Reasoning is according to scriptures. It's not speculations. So, and I told Western philosophy is they want to know about reality, which might include God, which might not include God. There are various philosophers, Nietzsche, and then Schopenhauer, and then Kierkegaard. These people were there, Marx. They told, aim of philosophy is to know reality, and God should be out of the picture, because God is illusion, according to them. But according to Vedic philosophy, according to Darshan, the goal of Vedic philosophy is to attain God, is God, and that is why to understand God we are understanding reality. There's a difference. Everything is centered on God. To understand God, we are understanding reality. But Western philosophy is not like that. They want to understand reality, which might include God or might not include God. There's another crucial difference. And then, if you understand all these things, so you can understand there's a lot of difference between philosophy and Vedic philosophy. In one word, Western philosophy is not God-oriented. That's all. They have divorced themselves from religion. They have made religion a myth, an illusion, a superstition. Because Bible, it doesn't offer many philosophical answers. But had they read Vedanta, and they had read Vedanta, many Britishers, they came to India, and British missionaries, they came, they read Vedas and Vedanta, but definitely we know that they had a mission to colonize India and to spoil our Indian culture purposefully. So they mistranslated Vedas and Upanishads. I meet so many scientists, so many philosophers, some scientists. So we ask them, have you read Vedanta? Have you read Vedas? They say, yeah, we have read, but it's not convincing. Well, so then I ask him, so which Veda did you read? Okay, fine. I've read Rig Veda, Third Veda, and all this. How did you read? Do you know Sanskrit? I don't know Sanskrit. So then how do you do? So I've read translations in English by this foreign author. But that doesn't work. To understand Vedic philosophy, you have to read. They didn't. Mostly they read English translations. They're confused. You have to know Sanskrit for that. Well, if you go to Germany, they even learn Sanskrit and then they read a Vedic text, because Germany, they like to read. Sanskrit is more famous there. They are more interested in Sanskrit. But at the same time, even if you know Sanskrit, but if you don't have a proper spiritual guide and a teacher, it's impossible to understand Vedas. If you can read a book, you go to Google and Google this book, Lies with Long Legs. It's a nice book. It's written by a historian, and he writes there how these British missionaries, they came to India, and when they were reading Vedas, they learned Sanskrit and they were reading Vedas. Many of them realized that Vedic philosophy is far more complex and far more superior than Western philosophy. In fact, one of the Western philosophers, I think it was Nietzsche. He has said that Indian metaphysics is by far much more complex than Western philosophy. So, what do? So you have to read. We have to, if you want to understand Vedic philosophy, you have to go according to tradition, Vedic tradition. And that makes a difference. And not only knowledge, we also have to have training, practical training, service. To understand Vedic philosophy, there are few requirements. The first requirement is purification of heart. You have to be dedicated. Your heart should be purified. This concept of purification is not there in Western philosophy anywhere. You can have a Western philosopher and he can be nonsense. He can do all kind of nonsense things. And at the same time, he can be a big philosopher. He can be a drinker. He can be a debauchee. He can have so many illicit sex. He can have relationships, and yet he can be a philosopher. But in Vedic philosophy, it doesn't happen like that. In Vedic philosophy, in darshanam, if you want to understand, first thing is purity. Even atheistic Vedic philosophy, like Patanjali Yoga, Nyaya Visheshika, rules what are the duties of a disciple. If you want to understand philosophy, it is atheistic system. But even they will demand that a disciple should be pure in conduct. He should not speak lies, for example. So if you read Patanjali Yoga, he says Well, if you want to understand yoga, if you want to understand Sankhya, you should not speak lies. You should follow brahmacharya. Brahmacharya means celibacy. You should not steal. You should be pure. So any system of Vedic philosophy, it demands purity. Even Ayurveda, what to talk about philosophy? Even other branches of Vedas, Vedic philosophy, you need purity. Even Ayurveda says that a doctor should not be hypocrite. He should always speak truth. If you read Vedas again and again, these qualifications appear again and again, because Vedic philosophy cannot be understood by people whose heart are impure. It doesn't happen like that, because it's not just information, it is wisdom. Western philosophy is information, largely. It is logical battle. Western philosophy is a logical battle. Okay, that reasoning is not right, this reasoning is right. It's more rationality, Western philosophy. But darshanam or Vedic philosophy is not like that. It's not a battle of logic, reason or rationality. It is wisdom, which dawns upon a disciple when he serves his teacher. He is pure and he abides by rules which are laid down by scriptures or the book of Vedic philosophy. And then he comes to conclusion that there is God. The aim of life is to develop love for God. Simple. This is good. So, what is the result of Western philosophy? What do you get if you understand Western philosophy? In the end, what do you get? In the end, you get frustration. Oh, yeah, he told, what he told, I think it was Nietzsche, I think, he told, if you want to be happy, follow religion. If you want to know truth, learn philosophy. That's a stupid thing. He himself is admitting that if you come to me, you'll not be happy, but you'll know truth. So what kind of truth it is? Western philosophy generally ends in ignorance and confusion. This is what so one of the great stalwart Indian philosopher, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he's not that famous in intellectual circles, but if you go to traditional circles, he's famous. Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he's written many books as a Gaudiya Vaishnava philosopher, and he writes. He has written a beautiful book, Tattva Vivek, where he analyzes all Western philosophies, and he writes, Western philosophy ends in doubts. This is perfect conclusion. Mostly they end in doubt and in confusion. It's confusion. Any philosophy you take, mostly they are confused. There's no definite conclusion. Okay, this is the aim of life. Who knows what's the aim of life? So Western philosophy doesn't end in knowledge. They're after knowledge, but it ends in ignorance. And then frustration, then suicides. Most of these philosophers, they were frustrated, they did suicides. They were if you read their history, most of them became atheists because they had their own doubts, own speculations, and most of them criticize religion. At least the modern philosophers, not the pre-modern philosophers. The modern philosophers they criticize religion, and but if you come to Vedic philosophy side, even an atheistic Vedic philosopher, he has some ethics with him. He also doesn't reject the concept of God. Even an atheist in India, except Charvak, he was also a Vedic philosopher. He told there is no God, let's enjoy and forget it. But there were other Vedic philosophers like Jaimini, Gautam, Kanath, who had their own systems. Even they accepted the existence of God. They couldn't deny the existence of God by their system of philosophy. But but they couldn't really accept God in a so they couldn't accept God as a personality, but at the same time they couldn't deny God. So for some of the atheistic philosophers, so you see, Western philosophy, atheist is a different definition. India, when you come to Indian tradition, atheist is having a different flavor. In Western philosophy, atheist means no God, religion is useless and finished. Indian philosophy doesn't go like that. Vedic philosophy, there is Charvak who is atheist, finished. That's a different thing. But there are other atheists, Nyaya, Visheshik, Sankhya, Yoga. They don't deny God. They deny the existence of God as a person. They might accept God as a power. They might accept God as a supreme power which doesn't have control on this material world. That kind of God they accept. Some of them. So you can call them deistic or something like this. But it's a major difference in Western philosophy and darshanam. So it's good to read Vedic philosophy and also to compare Western philosophy and Vedic philosophy. And when one does it in an unbiased fashion, neutral fashion, you go to a teacher, learn. End of Vedic philosophy is satisfaction. Sarve sukhina bhavantu. This is Vedas. Let everyone be happy. This should be the aim of philosophy. What is the use of that philosophy if it doesn't give us happiness and satisfaction? What's the use? Isn't it? What's the use? You make your whole foundation, whole superstructure of philosophy, and in the end you are frustrated. What's the use of that philosophy? A good philosophy should give you harmony, satisfaction, peace, and true knowledge and wisdom, and pure character, isn't it? And ethics and morality. But which ultimately leads to understanding God. This is good philosophy. This is good philosophy. And this is Vedic philosophy or darshanam. Darshanam means to see. To see reality as it is. Not according to your speculations. Not according to your own eyes, but according through the eyes of God, or through the eyes of scriptures, or through the eyes of ancient wisdom, through the eyes of ancient rishis. This is called darshanam, or Vedic philosophy. Hare Krishna. Is there any questions? No questions. Okay. Yeah.
Prabhu, these Vedic philosophers, the Western philosophers who come, so like they have impacted in a lot of people's life in some way or other. So why people are actually following them and just kind of going with the flow?
Yeah, Western philosophers,
Like people are getting too much influenced by their thoughts and their
most of the ideas in society are coming from Western philosophers. Why? Because it's largely because of educational system. Education is based on Western education, and in our educational syllabus, these kind of ideas are there all over. Although the subject philosophy, as far as subject is concerned, Western philosophy, it is not there in our schools. It is not there even in our colleges. And even if it is there, it's there in one corner which you have to go and find somehow. I went to Delhi University and we were trying to find where is this department of philosophy. Nobody seemed to know it because it was such a small, and we went there and it was just nobody was there. It was some teachers and they were not also interested in philosophy. So although you will not find as a subject, but the ideas of Western philosophers are all over our education. Same kind of ideas: liberty and atheistic ideas.
Freedom of thought.
Yeah, and all these kind of ideas, which are Marxian ideas, are coming from Schopenhauer, Kierkegaard. All these ideas are there. God is just an illusion. Religion is opium for masses. These are all the ideas we have, no? It's a myth. And that is why there's a problem. Our traditional education, our system is not based on traditional education or Vedic education. And that is the purpose of our Vedic Revival College and Research Center. This is the purpose. We want to base our education on Vedic education, which will give, which will imbibe ideas from Vedic philosophy. Foundation will be Vedic. Anyway, you have to have some ideas, no? You have to have some philosophical outlook in any field, whether it's education, whether it's your personal life, something. So we want to give an education where you have a perspective from Vedic philosophy, not from Western philosophical outlook. That is the purpose of this college, Vedic Revival College and Research Center. This is the difference. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.